18 Virtual Conference Etiquette by Breaking Barriers Training, mindfulness-based workshops. Today I'm going to share with you 18 tips to make your virtual conferences more efficient and more impactful. So let's start with the first one. The first tip is to be punctual. Be there for the call at least 10 minutes before the call and introduce yourself before speaking. When you introduce yourself before speaking, everybody gets to know who's speaking and they don't have to search for people, even if they're on an audio call. Tip number two, find a quiet place and be careful of the background noise. Find the place at your home or in your office where there's least distraction and there's least background noise so that your calls become smoother and when you speak, people don't get distracted. Tip number three, set the context of the call by revisiting the agenda, takeaways, and duration of the call. I know it's a part of the invite mail, but it's extremely important to revisit those details during the call. Tip number four, always be prepared for digressions. Create a parking lot. Keep noting the digressions. Keep noting the points which are not in the agenda, but people are interested in talking about. People might ask you questions on the call or want to share some of their thoughts regarding a topic which is not part of your agenda. You need to politely ask them to refrain from going away from the agenda, digressing by noting down their points and questions. I do this by saying, I've noted down what you wanted to ask. Since it's not part of the agenda, let's discuss it later on if we have time, or we'll have another call on it. Works all the time. Tip number five, always have a notepad and pen. If you like to write with your hand, or if you don't, if you like to make notes on the computer, make sure you have some kind of software like sticky notes or notepad on your computer and you make notes throughout your call. Tip number six, note down the names of other speakers so that you can also address them by their name. It's always good to address people by their name. So make sure while the host is sharing and introducing everybody, you make notes and you note down the names of everybody who's on the call. Tip number seven, turn off the sounds on your smartphone and absolutely no texting. We've seen people texting while on a call and their notifications. Please make sure your phone is on silent or vibration mode and it does not disturb everybody on the call. Tip number eight, speak clearly, check the audio, be careful of the echo while using the laptop mic. We have seen this in multiple times that the microphone on the laptop is extremely sensitive to echo. The moment you move away from the laptop, people tend to lose you on the call. Or if you come too close to the laptop, it starts echoing. We suggest you use the same headset that you use for your mobile phone while doing a call on the laptop. Could be a video call or an audio conferencing call. Uh, Also, be careful if sometimes we choose a room which is completely empty and there's a lot of echo in the room. Again, this happens mostly when we use the mic on the laptop. Tip number nine, paraphrase frequently. Paraphrasing is repeating what you've heard in your own words. For clarity, use statements like, if I've understood you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, what I've understood from you is this, am I right? So also check for understanding of others. Tip number 10, know your material really, really well. Uncertainty still will cause you to mumble or use a lot of fillers like uhs and ums. Speak naturally but slowly. Pronounce each word clearly. Also check for understanding of your audience. Tip number 11, if they can't hear you, don't shout. If someone can't hear you, then adjust the level of the microphone. Check for the connectivity of the microphone. Check for uh, if the microphone is covered, if the microphone is too close to your mouth, or just check the settings of the microphone. There's no need to raise your voice. Tip number 12, stay on mute while listening, only unmute to speak. We've seen a lot of people, even when they're listening, they keep it regular, they don't mute their microphone, because of which there's a lot of distraction and people are not able to hear each other clearly on the call. Tip number 13, wedge in. Do not interrupt other speakers. We've seen a lot of collisions happening on calls, virtual calls, where two people or three people kind of speak at the same time. And when they speak at the same time, nobody can hear them, and then nobody knows who's to start. So the moderator needs to actually moderate the call. Also, make sure you wait for the other person to either breathe or end the statement that they're making before you speak. So do not ever interrupt on virtual calls. Maintain eye contact with the camera. I know it's very unnatural for human beings to actually look into the camera, but the camera, the small hole in the camera, are the eyes of your audience. So don't look up, don't look here and there. Just look into the eyes of the camera, because those are the eyes of your audience. Focus on the camera. Tip number 15, don't carry on side conversations. If you want to talk to somebody, put the call on mute, put the video on mute, don't show the video, and have a conversation and then get back in the call. It's nice to just excuse yourself for 2 minutes and say that I'm going to have something to do, I have to talk to somebody. Excuse yourself politely on the call and then come back in when you're done. Uh, Tip number 16, dress appropriately. Go for a pastel or light color shirt, the one I'm wearing. Usually striped color shirts don't have a very good view on the camera if you're doing a video conferencing call. So please wear light colored shirts. Make sure the background is plain. It could be a wall. It could be a place which does not have moving objects, because they distract. Uh, Tip number 17, don't make distracting sounds. Your focus should always be on the person whom you're talking to, which is basically the camera. Avoid typing too hard. We've seen people type so hard on the laptop that it becomes very annoying. Breathing into the mic, sometimes the mic is so close to your mouth that you can hear people breathing. And sneezing and coughing, please make sure you're on mute when you're sneezing and coughing if you're not well. Don't sneeze or cough on your mic. And in the call, nobody would likes to hear that. Tip number 18, the last tip, is to summarize the call by revisiting timelines, deliverables, and next steps. Always make sure that you revisit the timelines that have been discussed on the call. Who's going to deliver what and by when, and what's the next step moving on from this call. So these are all the 18 tips to make your conference calls, virtual conference calls, more effective and more impactful. If you'd like to know more or have more training programs or video content made for your company, you can visit us at www.bbtraining.net. You can call us on these telephone numbers and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your time today, and I wish you a safe and blessed life.